wellb live on Facebook with Katie Corritori today. Katie's an Integrative Nutrition Health Coach, and we're here to talk about all things health counseling, wellness, lifestyle, and organizing.
And
one of my
cleaning.
favorites. Yes, spring cleaning, all that good stuff. It's now's the time to do it. But let me have Katie introduce herself and tell her a little about her journey, and we'll get into some questions and some conversation.
Great. Thanks, James. I'm excited to be here with you guys and with you, James. Let's see. So I guess I'll start out by just sharing a little bit about how I became an integrative nutrition health coach and a professional organizer. I actually started my career in New York City in the fashion industry in 2006, I think. I went to Rutgers University in New Jersey, and I used to commute into the city a couple times a week to intern here. And after I graduated, I got my dream job working at InStyle magazine, and worked really hard. I was commuting. We were just chatting about where our families live, and my family lives in New Jersey, so I was commuting about 2.5 hours a day into the city to work at InStyle, and just like really having a ball, like really loving it and learning a lot and enjoying my experience and working my way up. And it kind of like all went really fast. I ended up getting a full-time job in fashion PR and started traveling, went to Milan for shows, was just kind of like on this really fast-paced cycle where I was really moving quickly towards everything that I wanted. And at like one point, I guess a few years in, I realized I had really like achieved everything that I set out to achieve, but I wasn't really feeling good. I was feeling really stressed all the time. I was working all the time. I had no time for myself. I wasn't sleeping enough. I wasn't, nourishing my body. I wasn't feeling good about what I was eating. I honestly wasn't eating lunch a lot of the times, because a lot of us know, if you're in New York City, you know that.
Well, you were commuting to the city with your dream job and you forgot about meals? Yeah.
Not anymore.
Yeah.
So I kind of just got to a point. I was probably, I think, around like 27 years old. I know for a lot of people that happens around like the age of 27 to 29, 30, where you kind of like start to think about how you're spending your time, and if it's how you want to be spending it, and if it's what you want to be doing with your career, and if you're fulfilling your passions and your purpose and things like that. So some of those questions started to come up for me, but even more strongly, I think the thing that came up for me was that I just wasn't feeling good in my own body. I just wasn't feeling like myself, and I can look back now and know that what I was experiencing was adrenal fatigue.
I was just going to say
that.
Yeah. That's the first time I think I probably experienced that in college, but didn't know it was that. But I think it's when you have that second round, like later on in life, when you're just like living in the real world, having jobs, and then that's what happened. The same thing happened to me. It's like I identified it as that, and I was just like, oh, okay, this is going to continually happen to your body if you don't change your lifestyle.
Yes.
I'm sorry, like...
No, it's great. No, it's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I had that experience as well, so it's really interesting.
Yeah, and other things as well. I mean, that age too, just in terms of, I think we learn more about like esoteric stuff, like you can learn about chakra, like all these other things for me happened at that time as well, but it was on the physical basis, it was, I needed to be replenished physically on these larger layers, not just, you know what I mean? It wasn't like an acute specific thing. It was this chronic experience that was going on in my whole body. So
yeah, it's really like lifestyle changes, right? Because how you heal from something like that is really like, is getting more sleep, getting more sunshine, like nourishing your body with like whole foods and things that aren't processed, and reducing your stress, which, to me, it wasn't an option at the time to do all of that, or at least it didn't feel like an option at the time to do that while I was currently, continuing the way I was working. So I left my job, and then that's how I knew I wanted to. I was sort of on a path to healing my own body, but I was also interested in learning more about nutrition at the time. So that's how I found the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, and I got certified as a holistic health coach, and kind of went from there. I started my business a year later, and so that's kind of how I got to this point.
Yeah, I know. Well, I'm a graduate from there as well, so I think for many, it's a combination of personal and professional.
Yeah.
There's this personal thing that happens, and then it's almost like it's your way to process and assimilate the information that you're getting on how to coach other people, and you apply it to yourself, and then you see the changes that you make, and you see the influence that lifestyle change makes on a physical condition or something that, it could have been addressed one way, but you were trying this more holistic oriented way about what changes you can make in your lifestyle to not only assist the change, but allow it to stay.
Yeah,
right?
To be really sustainable.
Yeah,
absolutely. And also, James, I think a big part of why the way I went about healing this condition for myself was so extreme is because at the time I didn't know where to turn. I didn't know where to get the information. I didn't know who to go to. It's not something that's easily diagnosable. And so for me, it was kind of like just trying to figure out how to feel better again.
Yeah, well, I think also the word fatigue, it's like when you have a lot of various conditions, it's like a symptom, fatigue, and it's like, wait a second, well, if it's a symptom for all these things, like maybe it's the thing, like how do you address that thing from a root cause rather than addressing the other end, the symptom end of it. It's like, okay, I want to clear this up, or I want to change how that resonates in my body, and then you get to explore all these new techniques. So for you, was there one specific thing that clicked right away, like when you were a student, that you were like, oh, I've been experiencing this? I think, when I did learn about adrenal fatigue, that was like, oh my gosh, that was probably that moment. But otherwise, I think it was just as the collective experience, it was a lot of little moments like that where I was like, oh, I'm trying this and it's helping. I'm like, oh, I'm trying this and this is great. And, I'm changing my diet and this feels really good. Or I'm trying yoga and that's like really helpful, because at the time, I've talked about this before, but I was in my earlier 20s, I really loved running. I was a big runner, and I don't really run anymore because I'm more identifying now. My body really feels good with more gentle exercises like Pilates and yoga and things like that, and how those things can change over time. I think something that you kind of touched on there is when you get to the root cause of what's going on. A big thing I usually talk about with my clients and that I identify with myself is feeling like this question of, is something energizing me or depleting me? And I think that's kind of, where, because there's a lot of different things you can do for movement for your body. There's a lot of different ways you can eat, but like at the heart of it, the big question I always ask is this making me feel energized or is this making me feel depleted? Yeah. And we all have different seasons in our lives. So it's like, especially people that are proficient in a certain type of exercise, or they played a sport either in high school or college, and so they're very good at that. So then they think, oh well, I still need to exercise and I want more energy, so they might overdo something that is kind of over. Like you've done that season of that type of exercise, and then they do it, and then they're not feeling, what did you say, energized or depleted, right? It's actually depleting them on a longer scale, like a wider scale, right?
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, okay, so even though I love running, right now, running might not be my go-to exercise or my go-to de-stressor, like whatever it is you were getting out of that activity, and then you could shift to another activity, and then you notice, it's like, oh yeah, I wasn't feeling like this after running anymore. And I love running, but I have to go through those phases where I don't run anymore, because it's taxing on the body, especially when you're running on the streets of New York.
Yes.
So you started yoga, you tried, what about, when did you have your foray into the organizing aspect? Did you do that for yourself first?
Yeah. Well, I didn't, but I will say that it really has changed a lot of things for me. And I think it came into my life for a reason, personally as well as professionally. So I actually did that. A friend of mine from high school, her sister had an organizing business, and I was helping her out at the time. That's how I got started. She just needed some help with her business and with her clients, and so I got certified, and I was in school for nutrition at the time, so it seemed like it was kind of just going to be like sort of a part-time job for me. And then I finished my nutrition studies and started my business, and what I started to see is that a lot of the the clients I was working with for on organizing, they had a lot of concerns about their health, and they would ask me a lot of questions about like certain things that were going on. And then the people that I was working with on health issues and working with them for health coaching, I started to see how like if I had maybe gotten into their kitchens with them at the beginning of a program, it would have really changed things, because I was like finding out like towards the end of a 6-month health coaching program that they had things in their kitchens, and I was like, oh no, like I can give you a much better suggestion for that. And like, you know, things could be like a lot further along, a lot quicker if you embrace this idea of like setting up your environment to support you. Yeah. So it kind of came together that way. I also think it's been just extremely helpful to me in just learning how to let go. You know, when you organize, you kind of have to address these questions of like, what do you need in your life right now, and what do you need to get to the next phase of where you want to go. And I know that I was doing this personally, and a lot of people I see doing this is sort of like saving things for just in case they need them. And I think, you know, at the heart of that, that's really like learning how to trust, and learning how to trust yourself, and deepen into like trusting life and your path and things like that. So it's definitely been a helpful tool for me, and I know for a lot of my clients as well.
Yeah, I delved into it for the first time with clients this year.
Oh,
and
really?
So I graduated 10 years ago. I know, and it's exactly what you were just saying. It really frames how you can move forward with the suggestions you give clients, and you just know different things about them, and things I didn't think you would know. Like, right? It's just like when you ask somebody like a health history, like what their conditions are. You think you're gaining information. You're not just gaining the information, like the answers to the questions. Yeah. You're gaining what their view of those things are. Yeah. So right. So when you go to someone's home and you're like, oh, all right, they have a pretty neat kitchen, but the living room is cluttered. You're not just looking at the objects of the room. Usually as they're showing you that, they're talking about it, or they're explaining it. So there's this other underlying thing that might not just come up in conversation, but you're seeing it by being in the physical space with them and going through it. They'll tell a story, and then you're like, oh, this is why this is like that. And you know, it amazes me, because I've seen some very organized people just have too much stuff. And I think that there's like a tipping point for anybody of how much stuff can be in a particular space. Yes. You know, so you could be the most organized person in the world if you have 1,000 of something, when really it's only manageable to organize 200 of it. 1,000 is way more than 200. Yeah. So how are you going to fit that there?
Yeah, and also.
And that's where the letting go part comes in.
Yes. Yeah, like when it's time to let go of something, like can you do that? And also I think another thing that my coach always talks about a lot is like the fact that our outer worlds are really a reflection of our inner world.
Don't say that. No, and some people have a hard time like internalizing that, because like, and it's not always direct, right? It's not always like, oh, if it's messy here, you're a really messy person. It's not just something about your internal world is reflected in. You can make that connection on how it is. It's not always like a mirror image, say. But,
no, it doesn't. I don't think it necessarily means anything about you, like as a person. I think it just means like what you're experiencing. Yeah. You know, so like it's not that like you're a chaotic person if your environment is chaotic, but you might be experiencing some chaos internally because of something that's going on in your life or how you're feeling. So it's not so much, I don't think, a matter of like diagnosing who you are as a person, but rather what you're experiencing. And if it's something that you don't want to be experiencing, like how can you rearrange your environment so that you can be supported in feeling the way you want to feel? You know, so a lot of people I talk to, you know, the big words that come up are like peaceful and serene and calm and all this stuff.
When you said chaos, I was thinking of conflict, right? Yeah. So it could be any, like you're trying to get a new job and you don't know which one to get, and you're having this internal conflict, which is really, it's just mental. It's just you're contemplating it, but then it can show up in your home environment in a completely different way. But it's indicative of that situation that you put yourself in.
Yeah. Indecision is another one too. That's a big one too. If you're in indecision in other areas of your life, we have a little parade going on. So if you're in indecision in other areas of your life, so say just use the career one. If you have like 2 job offers on the table and you're just sort of stuck in this place where you don't know which way to go with your career, then you could find yourself in indecision about like what you need in your home and what you don't, and kind of where to put things or something like that. Kind of works in that way. If that makes sense. I know it's a little bit
exactly. I think that's it. I think, sometimes like people can read books on it or theories, and it does seem, I remember at one point not fully being aware of the connection between clutter and any physical condition, like weight or what, all these different things that it could, now being on the other end of having done so much health counseling, I see it connected to a lot of people. And it's just like, oh wow, so right, esoterically, it may not fully connect, but that's why going to the individual space and asking them specific questions, because for me, it's gonna be different than for someone else. When you come to my home environment, I might have more of these direct links as to why my environment the way it is, whereas somebody else, it might be more, not directly related, more like just a manifestation of something else. So, and then you can get, it's a discussion, and it will lead you to have some insights about what's going on energetically for that person.
Because I think that your energy is a big part of your health. I focus on 3 areas of health with my clients: your mental health, your physical health, and your energetic health, because I think that how you're experiencing like energy in your home, at work, when you're eating something, if it's something that's supportive for your body and is good for you biochemically, then you're going to feel really good after you eat it. You'll have energy. If you're eating something that's not good for you, you're going to probably feel kind of lousy energetically. So kind of tapping into your energy and learning how to understand which things in your life, like environmentally, mentally, and physically, are going to support you, or the things that deplete you. And then that changes, right? That's what you're saying. Like, it changes over time. Like, so it's not just something that you learn once, but what I really love to do with my clients in health coaching programs is to teach them the process. And then, you can always reach out for support later on in life when things change, because they always do, right? For different seasons and different phases of life, you're going to need different foods, different movement for your body. You're going to need a different environment. I use the example sometimes also of in my home right now. I'm working from home. My office is now in my home, so my home needs to be set up differently to support how I'm living my life. And it'll be different again, as things change, and in a few years I hope to have kids, and then then home environment will have to be set up differently again. And but it changes for people, like depending on how you want to use your home and what you want to experience there. So it's like
do you use a specific methodology with clients, or tailoring it, or like how do you come in? Do you come in with the framework and then kind of navigate which way to go depending on the client?
It is. It's very I feel like the work I do is very unique and personalized within a structure, I should say that. So I do have a structure where I work with clients for 3 or 6 months within a coaching container, and I also do like one-on-one intensives in home. And those are 6 hours long. So within those containers of space,
6 hours at one time?
Yeah.
Woo.
Yeah. Sometimes
I think the longest I did was 3 hours.
Yes, I will. Sometimes if the client seems like they're overwhelmed, and that happens a lot of times, right? If they seem like a little bit like overwhelmed by that amount of time, then we might break it up over 2-3 hour sessions instead, like that. It really, like I said, it's very. I kind of have to just rely on my intuition a lot for that, and work. It's a back and forth with this kind of work, with you and the client, and just.
And do you share that initial structure with them, like especially for like say the 6 hour? Like, do you kind of give them? It almost reminds me of like doing a presentation. Right? Is there an outline of the order that you're going to go, or is that fluid as well?
Yes, but again, it depends on the client, right? Because
it's like all good things. Like there's the structure. You said before, like within a structure, but then you have the flexibility.
Exactly. So, like we were just chatting a little bit before about Marie Kondo and some of her methodology, and I think there's a few things that are really great that she has brought, to this industry. of organizing, and the question that she asked about, whether things spark joy, I think that's really great and a wonderful thing to consider. And I also think that when it comes to the individuals, my method is a little bit more personalized and unique to the person. So we will start with a 90-minute session to assess for organizing. So it's kind of the way I start with any client is a 90-minute health history form, and we'll evaluate your health history and sort of how things are going right now, and then set a plan for how you want to work together moving forward. Or if it's for organizing, I'll come into your home, or we'll do it over Skype and evaluate the environment and what are your goals and what do you want to be experiencing here. And then from that place, I put together a strategy plan. So there is always a strategy plan, and there's always it'll probably take about this amount of time. With organizing, you really have to be a little bit more flexible and fluid because you don't really know what's going to come up, and it really is sort of a back and forth with feeling out different options for things and seeing how things work and being able to adjust them. But yeah, I will create a strategy plan, but that strategy looks different for everyone, depending on what their goals are and what they want to
and
achieve.
Even for a person, like I said, one of the people that I worked, just different rooms had different flows. It's I had a client that did what you mentioned, and it's in one area, do I love this? Does it bring me joy? It flowed really quickly, and then other areas it doesn't. So yeah, you need that breathing room, so you have the framework, but then you say, oh, okay, or that might be the time to be let's take a break and have a tea right now and have a conversation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's what I was going to say too. When we mentioned that we'll work together for a day, 6 hours, lots of breaks. One of the big things I tell my clients right away, if I work together with them in an intensive way, I'll send them a list of things to really consider before we get started and during, and just always being taking care of your physical self, so making sure to take breaks, get water, we stop and have meals and things like that, so that it's not this overwhelming thing, but rather it's a really supportive just container of space to focus on this this area of life and this goal.
Yeah, and it's interesting too when you were talking before, when you mentioned goal and the process, right? It's from our understanding of health, this is a health goal.
Yeah.
So it's some people when they hear the term health goal, they'll think oh, I want to join a gym, I need to change my diet. For Katie and I, right, this is no different.
Yeah.
Right, clearing my kitchen space or making my living room more functional. That is just as equal of a health goal for a client as is trying a new eating habits or a new fitness regime. So all of these things fall under the umbrella of a health goal. So to treat it that way, so you have, and how we like to do it is have them make the assessment, right? They're sharing the knowledge with us, and we can make an assessment, and our assessment will inform the suggestions that we make with them.
Yeah.
But in them sharing about their experience, they're making an assessment as well.
Yeah.
So they're getting this in the moment, their own personal, when it's food, it's biofeedback, right?
Yeah.
But your personal environment is more external, but it's still feedback, and having them touch things and walk around and asking them questions that they, even though they live in that environment, they might have never asked themselves that question before.
Yeah.
And that could be very powerful for them. So,
Yes.
Can you think of either a common experience or an experience where you're wow, that the person had an aha moment, or they were just I never looked at it like that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I feel this happens a lot actually, and I had a conversation with someone this week where they, in kind of talking through their home environment and their organizing goals, came to realize that this happens a lot. It's actually never really the organizing. It's never really the objects. It's never really the thing. A lot of times it's the objects are holding energy for something else. So what's the reason that you want to work on this project? What's the reason why this is bothering you? That kind of a thing. It's usually, a lot of times I feel it's holding memories of something, a past experience. And once you bring that to, what you're saying, once they bring that to the surface, and share that and acknowledge it, then they can move on. And then it's like, it's easy.
Yeah.
You know, it's easy to let something go. It's easy to organize. It's easy to change things. But yeah, a lot of times that's what's going on. You know, it might have something to do with relationships or like a trauma in childhood or something like that. And it doesn't even have to be something like, you know, when I say a trauma, I mean like, it doesn't have to be anything even really deep. It could be something that you're just holding on to like on a subconscious level that you wouldn't even think of if you thought of it, you know, now as something that was damaging or anything. It's like, oh, that wasn't really a big deal, but, you know, sort of on a subconscious level.
Yeah. I also think of words like hesitation or obstacle.
Yeah.
Right? If there's too much stuff, it creates an obstacle, and it's not intentional that you're creating that obstacle, but it causes a delay or a hesitation, or we get used to having delays and hesitations.
Yeah.
Just kind of like the memory concept. It's like, oh, I'm reminded of this, and but then you're not moving forward to get a new version of that. So like you're holding on to it. But I think there's these broader themes that sometimes people don't realize that that's how it's playing out. Yes. They can connect like when you start articulating those themes with them, or even ask them the question like, oh, is there anything that you're delaying, or like, oh, you're holding that thing from the past because you enjoyed it, and then the other day in our session you were talking about possibly going on vacation here, but you're not doing it. Like, is there a connection? Yeah. You know, if you're holding too much onto the past memory, then maybe you're stopping yourself from moving forward to the next one. So.
Yeah, definitely, and not like really fully living like in the present. And then what happens, right? You get like frustrated with things not working out in your present or being fearful of the future, and then it's hard to move forward and have what you want in your life.
Yeah, it's I think of anchors too, right? It's almost like emotional anchors, right? Mm-hmm. They're not physically tethered to anything, but there's the emotional anchor that's keeping them there, and they they don't see it, but you can come in and you could see it, and because you're trained as a health counselor or health coach, that you can have that discussion in a way that's not going to trigger them or not going to that you can have the open-ended questions. You could have the compassion, hold the space for them emotionally, so that if because I've been with clients, and I'm sure you have too, that the strangest thing might make them have a release, like an emotional release, like either cry or just get upset or beat themselves up. They're like, I can't believe that. And it's like, no, that's okay. It's part
of the process.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But making it like feel comfortable and safe is, I think something that is really important for us as practitioners.
Yeah. So I want to ask, we didn't really specifically talk about spring.
Yes.
But maybe we can do our tips in that version, because we are in spring right now. Yeah. So can you give me like 2 or 3 tips about spring cleaning, or why like this time of the year might be a good time to do that, or what would be specific about this season that people can do?
Yeah, I think the reason why this is such a great time to sort of start new rituals or new practices and things like that is because spring is, it's sort of, to some degree, it is sort of the beginning. It is a new beginning, and when you just think about the energy that the different seasons hold, spring is sort of like a time of growth and rebirth and things like that. So I think it's just energetically, it kind of works in your favor that we all kind of have a little bit more energy for these things, and we're interested in taking on something new. And so I think it is just a really good time. Also, it's just a time to open the windows and clear things out. Whereas winter, we're kind of all wanting to just sort of like get cozy and hunker down, and it's really a time to be quiet and still and sort of like within and contemplate and be with friends and family. So I think this season in general is a great time to start to think about some of those things. And I would say, as far as some tips go, I love to talk about how you can create like some really nourishing things for your mind, body, and soul. So I'd love to share like a tip for each one of those areas.
Excellent.
Cool. So I would say as far as your mind goes, the number one thing I
My
would
mind?
say,
No. Katie.
maybe not ours.
That's another FB Live. No.
I would say the number one thing I would say is just to find 5 to 10 minutes in the morning to nourish your mind first thing. So I usually like to do like a quick 10-minute meditation in the morning. You could also read.
Is that like before or after shower, during shower?
Like literally the first thing.
Oh wow.
So
okay.
I know that a lot of people go for their phone. I struggle with this myself. And I think that if you can sort of like nourish yourself within and like kind of get your mind going in a healthy way, first thing by like having some stillness and just sort of like welcoming the day in a quiet way, or learning a little bit by just reading a book that something you're interested in learning on, or personal development of some sort, or something that's like about positivity.
Affirmation.
Affirmations. I don't know if you're familiar with. I'm gonna.
Did we say?
No, totally gonna blank out on this. The Miracle Morning. Have you read The Miracle Morning?
No, I haven't.
I've actually been doing a little bit of that work. It's a great book. Just taking like 10 minutes, first thing. But
and
that's
there's a bunch of either books or ideas of how to do that. Yeah. If you want some guidance.
Yeah. And if you haven't done meditation before, I recommend just starting with like 3 to 5 minutes. Like it doesn't have to be crazy, but just take.
It's similar to exercise, like right. It's a form of like, because some people are like, I can't do an hour of this. Can you do 5 minutes? Like find that minute amount that you can do, and then once you do it on a regular basis, you can increase.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And what it
no pressure.
It's like, exactly what you're saying. It's like exercise. It's like training for your mind, because it's not really like how long, the purpose for me, at least the way I look at meditation, is the purpose is not like to see like how long can I sit quietly and not move and like not think about anything, but rather it's like to train your mind to like be calm and take a breath and like relax, so that when you're sitting in 2.5 hours of George Washington Bridge traffic like we were the other night, or you're in a stressful situation at work, or with your partner or a family member, like that your brain knows how to sort of just like be calm and take a breath and relax. So I think if you haven't gotten started with anything like that, just to start with like 3 minutes is great, and then just sort of like keep adding as it feels good. So that would be for your mind. Just do something first thing before you go for your cell phone. For your body, I think it's great to just get something green in the morning. So I do this in a few ways. Most mornings I'll have a little bit of liquid chlorophyll in my water with a squeeze of lemon. Another way you could do this is to put some spinach or some kale in a smoothie. And sometimes I also really love eggs, so I'll have like some asparagus or some greens with eggs. I feel like it's sort of like an insurance policy for the day, because even if your day goes totally wild after that, at least you got something good in to get started, and it also motivates you to keep taking care of yourself, because you're gonna feel that like energy, and you're gonna feel really good like within an hour or so of eating something good for you. So it'll be motivating to keep that practice going throughout the day. And then for your home, I see a lot of people approach organizing and they just want to like do everything at once, and then they get really overwhelmed. So what I would suggest is this one simple little tip I would suggest is to find a place in your home where you can keep a box or a bag. A closet is great, by the front door is great, in your car is even fine. And every time I really love this approach to organizing, like with intention and in a mindful way. So every time you come across an object in your home that is either like no longer serving you, like it just doesn't serve a purpose and you don't need it, or if it's broken or anything like that, that you really set the intention to like let it go and for something else to come into your life. So if it's a book and you're like, oh, I didn't really want to read this, but there's something else that you want to learn about, you let that go and you create the space for something else to come in. So every time you see an object, rather than attacking your whole home at once, just every time you see something, and you're ready to let it go, just put it in the box. And then when the box is full, you can take it out. So that's another quick, easy tip that you can get started with.
That's great. Like in terms of just maintenance and creating a healthy habit to just kind of maintain, because for a lot of people, they do see it as this big, like a project almost. And you can have the project if you need it, or like, right, if you need the 6 hour intensive.
And sometimes we do, right? Like sometimes we need a little bit more to like really clear some of the junk out, like going to the dentist or something like that. But then you also want to make sure that you're setting up the systems that are going to be sustainable and to maintain that over time.
Yeah.
Sort of looking at it on more of a daily, weekly, monthly basis rather than just this one time of year.
Yes. So, and that's like, that becomes the future preventative tool.
Yeah.
To create this more consistent habit.
Yep.
And then there's the more acute, like, let's fix this right now, like you said, like going to the dentist or like doing this specific thing. And that's what's great about someone like you. You can help on both levels. You can do those intensives for somebody, and then you can also work with them on a regular basis to maintain the healthy habits, to get into that maintenance mode. Well, I think we've talked quite a bit. We could probably talk so much more.
I was voted most talkative in my senior year, so
we have another thing in common. But we could have more conversations in the future for sure. But for now, we will finish. And Katie is one of the practitioners of the wellb community, so you can find her on the wellb app. She has her sessions listed there, and if you're interested, you can book a session with Katie.
Yeah. Can I also mention I was running a special for May?
Oh, excellent.
So there is a 90-minute session listed there for organizing or for health coaching, and it's I typically run those at $250, and for the month of May, if you guys are ready to get into spring cleaning mode, I'd love to support you, and there's a special on that on the wellb site for $150 during the month of May.
Excellent.
Cool.
Thank you so much, Katie. I appreciate it. And
it's been great to be here.
We will continue the conversation.
Sounds good.
Thanks.